My sister called my stay-at-home husband womanly at a family party, so I exposed that he'd been paying her rent and bought her a car. I cut her off. She was evicted weeks later. There are lines you just don't cross with family. But my sister didn't just cross them. She built a bridge over them, just to publicly humiliate the man who kept our family afloat, the man who had selflessly helped her when no one else would. And let me tell you, that was the moment everything changed forever. My husband and I have been happily married for years now, and we're blessed with the most incredible daughter. He's always been passionate about gaming, and long before we met, he even started a small YouTube channel for it. Back then, it was just a tiny hobby, a handful of subscribers, nothing serious. He had a regular 9 to 5 job that paid the bills, and YouTube was just his passion project. Then, CO-19 hit. And just like so many others, his company shut down. He lost his job. It was a terrifying time. I was pregnant, and suddenly, I was the only one bringing in money. He was absolutely devastated. Losing that job wasn't just about income. It crushed his confidence, his sense of security. But here's the thing about my husband. He's a fighter. He applied for new jobs constantly, but he also poured every ounce of energy he had into growing that channel. He worked tirelessly, day and night, and slowly but surely, it started to pay off. That passion project, that hobby, became our lifeline. It wasn't easy, but looking back, his sheer determination, his resilience, it still blows me away. After our daughter arrived, he made a big decision. He decided to go all in, full-time YouTuber and stay-at-home dad. Since his work was all online, all from home, it just made sense. Why pay for childcare when he was already there, able to give our daughter his full attention? And honestly, it's been amazing. He's the most involved, hands-on father you could imagine. He doesn't just watch her. He plays, he teaches, he's there for every milestone. And his channel? It's just exploded. Meanwhile, I contribute financially too, and we both share household duties. It's this incredible balance, this partnership. His success has opened up so many doors. We've traveled internationally multiple times, making these incredible memories we only ever dreamed of. He even helped me pay off my massive student loan debt, a burden I thought I'd carry forever. And last year, we bought our beautiful new home. Our life? It's everything I could have ever wished for. But not everyone sees it that way, especially my sister. She has very strong opinions about my husband's role, and let's just say, they are anything but positive. To understand her, you need to know her story. She dropped out of college, impulsively ran off and married her love of her life. Thought it was her happily ever after. It wasn't. He got her pregnant, then pressured her to terminate. She refused, choosing to keep her babies. Now she's a single mom to twins, completely on her own. Her ex? A total deadbeat. Claims he can't afford child support because of gambling debts. But I see his social media. He's gallivanting around with a new girlfriend, spending money freely. He just doesn't care about his kids. That's why my husband and I have always gone above and beyond for her. She's my sister. I felt responsible. No matter her mistakes, she's family. We helped her buy a car so she could get to work. We regularly help with her rent because we know how impossible it is for a single mom with no child support. There were times she was jobless, and we bought all her groceries, covered her kids' expenses. We never asked for anything in return. We just helped, because that's what family does. But despite all of that, she looks down on my husband. She holds this outdated, almost ancient view that a man must leave the house and work a traditional job. Over the years, she's made little comments, passive-aggressive jabs. She'd casually mention how it's not right for him to just sit at home while other men are out working. Every single time, I'd calmly explain, he's not sitting around. He's working harder than ever, and he makes more money from YouTube than he ever would at a regular job. Why on earth would he go anywhere else when he's providing for us and being an incredible, present father? A few times, she'd take it further, making jokes. She'd call him Mrs. or the woman in the relationship. Honestly, my husband and I just laughed them off. We knew her opinions didn't define our lives or our happiness. We were just fine. Then came last weekend. My parents hosted a small family get-together, a warm, lively gathering, everyone catching up. During lunch, the conversation somehow turned to our recent trip to Greece. My parents were beaming, gushing about our social media photos, how happy they were for us. No one else in the family had ever been, so everyone was eager to hear all about it. My aunt even chimed in, saying how inspiring it was to see us doing so well, creating a better life for our child than we ever had growing up. It felt so good to be acknowledged, to hear that warmth. But my sister? Her reaction was totally different. She stayed silent. And then, I saw her roll her eyes. In a lighthearted moment, my mom joked about us taking them on our next trip. It was just playful, but my husband, in his usual enthusiastic way, immediately took it seriously. He announced he'd absolutely love to. He even started discussing potential destinations, excitedly suggesting Japan. My parents' faces lit up. That's when my sister scoffed. Loudly. Everyone turned to look at her, confused. Then she blurted out, "I just don't get how everyone is so okay with this." She shook her head, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "I mean, seriously, he's just a glorified housewife, basically." The entire table went silent. You could hear a pin drop. The cheerful atmosphere vanished. Instantly, my husband's face just fell. I knew she didn't respect him, but I never, ever expected her to openly belittle him like that, in front of our whole family. A wave of pure, scorching anger rose in me. "What do you mean by that?" I demanded, turning to her. She just shrugged, completely unbothered, as if she hadn't just disrespected my husband in front of everyone. Then, with an air of absolute superiority, she continued, "I've always felt like your husband is very womanly, so ladylike. No real man would ever voluntarily stay at home and take care of his kid. That's just not what men do." She even pointed at me, like she was trying to prove a point. "Men are supposed to go out and earn money, not sit around playing video games and taking care of babies. That's a woman's job. He's basically just a good-for-nothing stay-at-home dad." I felt my blood absolutely boil. "How dare you demean my husband?" I snapped, my anger barely contained. "It's because of him and his job that you and your children have food on your table. It's because of his kindness and generosity that you got a brand new car when yours broke down and you had no money to replace it. It's because of him that you have a roof over your head and rent that gets paid when you're struggling. And now you have the audacity to sit here and insult him." My sister just stared, completely caught off guard by my outburst. But I wasn't finished. "You call his job ladylike, as if that's something to be ashamed of? But let me tell you something. Because of this so-called ladylike job, my husband and I have built a comfortable life for ourselves. We've been able to travel, move into a new home, and most importantly, we've been able to help you when you had no one else to turn to." My hands were shaking, partly from anger, partly from sheer frustration. My husband had never hesitated to help her, never asked for anything in return. And yet, here she was, insulting him just because he didn't fit her outdated, ridiculous idea of masculinity. She clearly hadn't expected me to stand up so fiercely. Her eyes were wide, her mouth agape in shock. At this point, my mother jumped in. She turned to my sister with a look of pure disappointment. "How could you say something like this?" my mom demanded. "This is the man who has done more for you than even your own ex. He has helped you when no one else could, and this is how you repay him." The rest of the family sat in awkward silence, watching the scene unfold. My sister, now clearly on the defensive, started scrambling for an excuse. "I didn't really mean to offend anyone," she mumbled, trying to brush it off. "I'm just blunt sometimes. You're all getting all worked up over nothing." "Nothing." I shot back, my voice sharp. "You just publicly disrespected my husband, the father of my child, the man who has done nothing but support me. And you. And now you want to pretend it's nothing. No, you don't get to insult him and then act like I'm the one overreacting." I could still see the hurt in my husband's eyes. That alone was enough to keep me going. She tried to argue, but I cut her off. "You act like you're better than him because he stays home to raise our daughter while also running a successful career. Meanwhile, the father of your own children abandoned you. And yet, you still hold on to these ridiculous ideas of what a real man should be. Well, let me tell you this. My husband is more of a real man than your ex will ever be." Then, I delivered the final blow. "Since you think my husband is good for nothing, since you feel he's womanly and not a real man, then from now on, you have no right to ask him for anything, ever again." My voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. If you don't respect him, then you don't get to benefit from his generosity. So, the next time you're out of a job, the next time you need help paying rent or groceries, or if your car breaks down, don't come to us. Ask your deadbeat ex. since you seem to have a clearer idea of what a real man should be." The moment I said those words, her eyes widened even further. It was clear she hadn't expected such a harsh consequence. She immediately started backtracking, her voice stumbling. "Wait, I didn't mean it like that. I wasn't actually serious. Come on, you're overreacting." But the damage was done. My husband, who had been silent through most of this, finally spoke up. His voice was calm, but absolutely resolute. "My wife's right. I've helped you for years without hesitation, despite how you've treated me. But I'm done. I'm not opening my wallet or my home to you ever again." His words carried so much finality that my sister went pale. She glanced around the room, hoping for someone to step in. No one did. My parents looked utterly disappointed. Our relatives avoided eye contact. No one rushed to her defense. For years, we had been there. We stepped up when her ex abandoned her, gave her financial support, made sure her children never went without. And yet, she had the audacity to mock the very man who made all of that possible. Well, now she would see what life was like without us. Since that night, the entire family has turned against her. No one is on her side, and honestly, I'm not surprised. Everyone loves my husband. They know how hardworking, kind, and generous he is. They've seen firsthand everything we've done for her. Watching her publicly demean him like that didn't sit right with anyone. Now, she's facing the consequences. She's been texting me nonstop, complaining about being alienated. According to her, everyone's giving her the cold shoulder, and she doesn't understand why things got so bad over a few simple comments. She even had the audacity to tell me I was in the wrong for attacking her. "You shouldn't have embarrassed me like that," she wrote. "You made me look bad in front of everyone." Can you believe it? She's acting like the victim, like I blindsided her. But the truth is, she did this to herself. She chose to insult my husband publicly, and now she's upset about the public backlash. I haven't responded to a single one of her texts. Honestly, what is there to say? I've realized something important. My sister is just plain jealous. It's so obvious now. She resents my husband because he is everything her ex could never be. My husband is loyal, hardworking, a devoted father. He stepped up in ways most men wouldn't. And instead of appreciating that, she tries to put him down because, deep down, she knows the truth. Her ex is irresponsible, unreliable, and abandoned her and their children. That reality stings for her, so instead of dealing with it, she projects her bitterness onto my husband. She mocks him for being a hands-on father because that's something she never got. She calls him womanly because she associates fatherhood and caregiving with weakness, when in reality, it takes real strength to do what he does. My mother called me earlier this week, and the conversation only confirmed my suspicions. My sister has been in full damage control mode, calling everyone, trying to explain her side, hoping for sympathy. But my parents and the other relatives who were there aren't buying it. Both my mom and dad made it crystal clear. If she wants to fix things, she needs to apologize and take responsibility. No excuses. No justifications. Just a sincere apology. I respect them so much for that. They're not enabling her. They told me they fully support whatever decision my husband and I make. If we never help her again, they're completely okay with it. In their words, she's a grown woman. She made her choices. She has her kids, and she needs to learn how to take care of them on her own. You two have done more than enough. If she wants to act like she doesn't need you, then it's time for her to live with that decision. Hearing that from them was such a relief. I honestly expected them to guilt-trip me, but they saw how unfair she was. I haven't spoken to her at all. I've been ignoring her calls and texts because, truly, I have nothing to say. My husband? He's already blocked her. He has no intention of ever dealing with her again. And I don't blame him one bit. After everything she said, after trying to humiliate him, she doesn't deserve our kindness. We went above and beyond for years, and in return, she disrespected the very man who made that possible. At this point, I'm following his lead. I'm cutting her off completely. She doesn't deserve our help, our money, or even our attention. If she truly thinks my husband is so useless and womanly, then she can figure out how to survive without him. I don't feel guilty, not even a little. She made her bed. Now she can lie in it. Then, 2 months later, last night, completely out of the blue, she showed up at our doorstep in the middle of the night. She was crying, and standing beside her were her 2 kids, looking exhausted and scared. I knew immediately something was seriously wrong. Turns out, She hadn't been able to pay her rent. Her job doesn't even pay enough to keep up. Her landlord had given her multiple warnings, but she still fell behind. And now he finally kicked her out. She had nowhere else to go, so she came to us. For a moment, I just stood there, staring. This was the same woman who mocked my husband, called him a glorified housewife, not a real man. The same sister who tried to humiliate him in front of our entire family. And now, she was begging us for a roof over her head. I felt a pang of sorrow for her kids, but her? No. She hasn't once apologized to me or my husband. Just because she needed us now didn't mean I'd just forget everything. I told her straight away that she needed to find a motel, or better yet, go ask her ex for help. She immediately got defensive, argued that I was her sister, that it was my responsibility to help, not his. She tried to reason with me, saying she just needed a place for a few months to save up. I shook my head firmly. You're on your own now, I told her. It's not my job, or my husband's job, to take care of you. I reminded her. You burned this bridge the moment you disrespected the very man who had done so much to help you over the years. I pointed out how she never even bothered to apologize for the awful things she said. She had months to make things right. Yet, she chose to ignore us until, suddenly, she needed something. Now she was standing at our doorstep, expecting us to open our home as if nothing had happened. The sheer audacity infuriated me. She tried to argue, tried to make excuses, but I wasn't having it. My decision was final. She needed to figure things out without us, just like she claimed she could. I didn't want to argue anymore, especially not in front of her kids. So, without another word, I closed the door. I could hear her outside, yelling at me, calling me cruel, heartless, a terrible sister. And I could hear her kids sniffling in the background. That part hurt me, I won't lie, but I knew I had made the right choice. She eventually had no choice but to leave. She ended up going to my parents' place, where she's staying for now. My father, from what I've heard, is incredibly disappointed. He sees right through her excuses. But for the sake of the kids, he and my mom agreed to let her stay temporarily. It's been a while since then. I thought things had finally settled down, but I was wrong. Yesterday, while I was at work, she showed up at our house, completely unannounced and completely drunk. My husband told me later that it started with loud banging. He thought it was a delivery. Then he heard her screaming his name, demanding he open the door. When he did, she shoved her way inside, disheveled and angry. Right away, she started blaming him for everything. Accused him of destroying our relationship, saying if it weren't for him, I never would have cut her off. She went on a rant about how he'd brainwashed me against my own family, how he was nothing but a pathetic excuse for a man. My husband, being the calm person he is, tried to de-escalate. He told her to sit down, take a deep breath. But then he realized something was very, very wrong. She was slurring her words, swaying. She was clearly drunk. So instead of engaging, he reached for his phone and called my mom. I was at work, in a meeting, so I missed his calls. Meanwhile, my sister kept ranting, getting louder, angrier, calling him names, saying if he were a real man, he would have helped her instead of turning his back. My mom never answered, and my sister was getting worse. She started throwing things, knocked over a lamp, nearly broke a glass. At one point, she even yelled at our daughter, who was just standing nearby, innocently. That's when my husband knew. This was beyond an argument. He did what he had to do. He called the police. When the officers arrived, she was still screaming at him. The second she saw them, she tried to play it off, act like he was the problem. But she was clearly intoxicated, and my husband had the entire situation recorded on our home security cameras. The officers didn't buy her act for a second. In the end, they took her away. She was booked for trespassing. By the time I finally saw the missed calls and texts, everything had already happened. My husband filled me in, and I was absolutely furious. Furious at my sister for crossing the line again. Furious that she dared to show up and harass my husband when I wasn't home. And furious that she yelled at my daughter. If I had even the smallest amount of sympathy left for my sister, it's completely gone now. I can never, ever forgive her. My husband and I have agreed. If she ever shows up at our home again, we're getting a restraining order. Our entire family now knows she was arrested, that she spent the night in jail. My parents are in complete shock. They never thought things would escalate this far. My father is furious. He's saying enough is enough, that he wants to kick her out immediately. He's been patient with her for too long. And now he feels like she's putting herself, and more importantly, her kids, in danger. My mom confessed to me that she's noticed my sister drinking a lot more lately, even when she's supposed to be watching her children. She admitted there were nights my sister came home clearly drunk, stumbling while the kids were awake. My mom never wanted to believe it was a real problem, but after this incident, she can't deny it anymore. Now, my parents are terrified. Terrified that if my sister continues down this path, she could unintentionally harm her children. My father wants her gone, immediately. But my mother is torn. She knows my sister is spiraling, but she doesn't want to abandon her grandkids. At this point, I have no idea what's going to happen next. But one thing is terrifyingly clear: my sister needs serious help, and she's running out of people willing to give it to her.